So, hi, my name is Igor Pakhomov, and I'm a representative of DDoS Guard company. 5 years we are mostly focused on volumetric attacks. So this is our main field of action, and I tried to tell you about economy. Economy of this type of attack is the most interesting thing, because thank you. Because a lot of talks about DDoS attacks, we talk almost 10 years and nothing changed. So to understand what is it and how we could mitigate it, we need to go deeper. Nowadays, the main problem is volumetric attacks which are generated by not by botnets. Botnets, this is another field of action because I like botnets because we could block it and that's all. But when we work with attacks increased day by day and reached more than 100 gigabits, then we could do nothing if we don't know what where we located. So the main thing in this field is in fact DDoS attacks is very cheap. To generate attack you need almost a few servers with IP spoofing enabled in this autonomous system, and target. That's all. For example, how it looks DDoS attacks like DNS amplification. We have few servers and almost this cruel quantity of open resolvers. Open resolvers, I mean DNS or NTP open resolvers, a lot of things, and all these resolvers are part of attack. So when you under attack, you don't defending under one person. You defending from all these resolvers or part of this botnet. So here, open resolvers, and when server generate one packet for example, this 1 byte, and all this cloud generate to target at least 30 times more traffic. According to American CERT, this is main types of amplificator which is the main troublemaker in this year and in the last year. There is a lot of things like DNS amplification, NTP amplification, and a lot of things like gaming protocols. So how it look on another side? When I send 1 byte to DNS, I could increase this quantity of traffic, and all these servers, open resolvers, all these open resolvers could generate traffic with this multiplicator. So attacks to overpowered bandwidth is very easy and very cheap. This is a screenshot from site. This kind of site, booters. Some guys have the services and they provide cybercrime action. For example, you could order for 15 euros, 18 gigabits. And this quantity of traffic enough to shut down any bank, any military service, any governmental service if they haven't any protection appliance, or even if they have. How it looks in practical case. For example, when this is real case from one of our commercial client from Holland. So in horizontal, you could spectate data. So first attack was more than 20 gigabits, and that was like Scout. They use booters, a lot of booters, different types and different servers. And attacks was reached 15 gigabits, and in basic case, it's this amount of traffic is enough to down any data center, for example. So when this client came to us, he has great troubles. Something around months, stable work was disrupted. So sometimes we spectate packets attack. Packets attacks is an interesting thing because they very different from our Chinese clients. We know a lot of things about how Chinese attackers generate these attacks. This is most dangerous thing nowadays. We don't like to spectate how it works, and this is small attack. We spectate some attacks more than 200 million packets. This is enough for some operators level networks, they just shut down or black hole. What Chinese do? They inject some scripts in sites. For example, Chinese internet is more than 700 billion people. So when we talk about DDoS attack for that guys, this quantity of users is a normal thing. They very massive. So when Chinese hackers want to attack someone with packet attack, they just inject some JavaScripts in the body of a web page, and when guys came on websites, they visit to read some news or just pictures for fun, they generate attack. They generate attack to different points of the world. And what the main questions is, because attacks is very cheap, to mitigate attack, and to mitigate attack you need a lot of money, because there are few ways to mitigate it. You need a lot of bandwidth. It costs hundreds $1,000s. You need some devices, hardware devices, I mean, from vendors like Juniper, Huawei, Cisco, to professional things like Arbor. Arbor costs something like $1 billion. So, on the one side, on the one hand, we have guys with 50 euros. On the other hand, we have devices, we have infrastructure for tons of $1,000. And we can do with this almost nothing, except one thing. We could use cloud infrastructure. So when we talk about massive services, there is one interesting thing. This is like shared bandwidth, where each customer shares this monthly pay with all of them. So this kind of service is the most progressive nowadays. All vendors came to these steps, came to this way. Some alliances like Juniper and Symantec or VeriSign, I don't remember now, and other guys, they do the same things. Talking about my company, we provide cloud protection more than 5 years. So now we have more than 4,000 clients over the world. And one thing we try to do every day, we try to decrease our prices because only one way to stop this situation, only one way to stop is protection must be cheaper than weapon. In this case, we will see one point. These booters could shut down any bank, any governmental website without protection or with hardware protection. This is a slide with sources of attacks. This is countries where attacking traffic goes. In first part, the main country is France and Great Britain. Then this is Russia and Brazil. Here, this is Netherlands. Because this map shows us that main sources is countries where located all telecommunication infrastructure of Europe, like France and Netherlands, or some big countries like Russia or Brazil, because it's concerned with open resolvers. In some regions, there are a lot of open resolvers, so they main troublemakers in these areas. So basically, that's all. A lot of things about DDoS attacks we could discuss, but to interesting presentation, we could work together. So I'd like to ask you about your experience with the DDoS attack and could notice some details about it and some things you could interested in. So, please.
What about amplification? DNS amplification, simple one, old one even, because in most cases in Lithuania, DNS amplifications just few years ago, they was #1 for some kind of DDoS attacks. Sometimes they took few gigs. After that comes NTP. Amplifications now, the question is of CHRMAP and others with some kind of old firmware router small from the customers at home. In Lithuania we have gigs at home, so the biggest problems what Lithuanians have too much and didn't want to protect. We know what's biggest telecoms have closed some things of UDP. Some of them no. Some of them even letting to use spoofed IP addresses. So how the rest of the world fixing such things?
Now, the main problem is the internet is very, very old thing. That's why we have a lot of old school protocols, old school things, and world is changed. And now these things are used in another way, used in cybercrime field. So, according to DNS amplification, first troubles from DNS amplification I expected from, I think, almost 8 years. And at that old time, there was something like 2 gigs from DNS amplificators. But nowadays, in this year, I expected attack from DNS amplificator, something like few hundreds of gigabits, like 300 of gigabits. A lot of traffic, but this attack was very short period, and we could mitigate this attack. Now we have our network more than 1 terabit per second capacity of our network, so we could mitigate these attacks. And about local Lithuanian internet. Main thing, talking about attacks, I mean global attacks. When attack came to Lithuania or generate in Lithuania, there was a lot of traffic, but some users easily could be identified and could be found. I mean, when we talk about local level, we could use something like deep packet inspection, something like rules and policies in these autonomous systems. This is easy. But when we talk about global market, there was a lot of countries like Pakistan or like China. They work with their own rules. So in Pakistan, 2 years ago, there was almost 50% of all active resolvers. Nowadays, there are a lot of NTP resolvers from Pakistan. For example, in China, there was a big troubles with this thin battle thin between Chinese internet and world internet. So when they generate attacks, there are problems with connectivity between China mainland and other world. So they work on this problem. I mean, China Telecom, China Unicom, they work on this problem, and they black hole all network inside the China. So they couldn't generate traffic. Talking about how we could mitigate it, I think only update, only special policies, special rules on each level, from customer to provider to global provider. But on practice, we talk about it almost 10 years and nothing changed. So something like that.
What is the ratio between botnet attacks and amplification attacks now, from your experience?
Botnet attacks is like 10% of all quantity. Now, because this is economically question. For example, to create botnet, you must use few steps. You need some tools to injure this computers, to generate this botnet, to create it. And when you spend a lot of money, you want to generate money. Hackers want to generate money. They always do things with pragmatical aspect of all these attacks. Nobody spent money without money back. This is practice. And when hacker has botnet, he probably use it for some things like my colleague from Ukraine talk about bank fraud and these things. Botnets are useful. Botnets, we could spectate botnets when we talk about traffic generated from China. This is easy to generate traffic, botnet traffic from China. They even generate traffic from Android malware. There are a lot of devices, there are a lot of mobile users there, so and they have high bandwidth of mobile internet. So
it's much more expensive botnet attacks than.
Sure. This is only economical questions. We have such more resolvers, and to generate these resolvers, hacker need only 2 steps. He need to scan internet for open resolvers few hours, and then just few servers with a lot of bandwidth to generate attack. Attack could crash anything.
Should try that.
Now it's better, yeah? Do you really think that, let's say, we're talking about simple low-level attacks, and do you think that this is, let's say, this is not emerging trend, this trend appears 10 years ago, as you said, yeah? But do you suppose to meet increasing level of application level attacks, like SSL level, slow LoRis? Because I can use 5 computers to shut down the server without SSL termination and
Sure.
protection.
When we talk about attacks directed on such things like it depends. For example, few years ago, there are first attacks on HTTPS. First attacks, I mean first attacks we spectate on our clients. For only 2 weeks, we have a leak in our protection. For only 2 weeks, this type of attack was increased from 1% to almost 90%. So any attack could be dangerous. Any attack could be fatal. So when we talk about protection, it means full protection, because if you have one leak point, only few weeks and all hackers in the world will use this thing. All these questions about attacks, they almost located in the field of economy. All.
you mentioned you have some kind of cloud protection, yes? Could you explain it a little bit?
Okay, we have a network, geo-distributed network with a lot of points of presence over the Europe, from Amsterdam to Moscow. This is our main area. So we have a network with capacity more than 1.5 terabit per second. So this is a large network. And we pay for all traffic. So we receive even UDP floods, we pay for it. That's why our uplinks don't black hole this traffic. And we could guarantee our client could receive all traffic, include legitimate traffic.
Normally client is some kind, you're protecting websites mostly.
No. We start from website protection, but now we work as operator. So we have more than 15 data centers over Europe who use our BGP protection. I mean protected IP transit. So we work on each level, from website to whole data center.
So this means I can buy an IP address from you, from your system,
Sure.
and host anything on it.
Sure. This, if we talk about website, it works like reverse proxy, in basic case.
What's the biggest attack what you received in the last few months?
In the last few months, we have interesting cycle of attacks. There are peaks in January, there are peaks in April, so soon, and there are peaks in August. In January, we received something like 200 gigabits one time, and few incidents with 100 gigabits. Basic level of attack is something like 15, 17, 18 gigabits. If we talk about commercial attacks, not prank. Interesting case was in August 2 years ago, when in China mainland there was a problem on Chinese market. There was a problem with DNS servers. There are few main DNS providers, and they got a lot of traffic from attackers, and they shut down it. So all these people, 700 million people, they couldn't get internet. So we have some contacts from providers in that area, and we mitigate attack on one of largest Chinese DNS provider. But there are a lot of troubles, a lot of problems with our network. So all our clients, they feel what has happened. But nowadays there are no these cruel attacks. To Chinese DNS provider, there was attack more than 100 million packets per second, and it's continue more than 2 weeks. 2 weeks we work on our limits, and this was fair. But now attacks, profile of attacks looks like that. So it means something like they try, but site not shut down it. They try in a period, and when they have ideas, they do something. But if no results, there is no results, they try in period. And I think this case could be continued with the same profile. So thank you.